Will Coleshill from Resistance GB. Your party's called the Reform Party.
Yes, Reform UK.
Yeah, and for hundreds of years, British justice was the pride of this country.
And hopefully, well, and in theory still should be.
But
it's done very badly. It's incompetent by many parts of the establishment, just not up to the job.
In 1967, we moved from jury unanimity, which required 12 out of 12 people in order to convict, as they have over in the United States, and now it's only 10 out of 12. 2 people on a jury can stand up and say, I believe this person's innocent, and people are being sent to prison.
That's not the real issue. The real issue is you've got to have a criminal justice system that recognises and deals with cases quickly, promptly and efficiently. At the moment we've got complete chaos. We've got a system where only 5% of crimes end up in a charge. Less than that end up in a conviction. Most ordinary folk will say, well, do you know, I'd quite like a target of 50%. That sounds about right. Not unreasonable. So it's a disaster. That's why we put allocated extra money into the criminal justice system. We've got to have more detention places. We've got to have more bobbies on the beat. And we can get stuff done and we can make our streets safe again.
And may I ask you also about electoral reform? Could you go into...
fully on for it. Proportional representation. This first past the post is a disaster.
What sort of PR are you looking at? AMS?
There's a variety of systems. Yeah, I mean, what we've got currently in Holyrood and in the Senedd, that actually where it sort of gets the best of both worlds. You have constituency MPs, you have the regional list, you get basically every vote counts. That we think is the best of the options. Other people might have a different view, but that's my preference. But they're all better. They're all better than the disastrous first past the post. Imagine a situation: we get 5-6 million votes and only a couple of seats, and the Lib Dems get 3 million votes and they get 30 seats, and the what do you call them? The SNP. They get 1 million votes and they get 20 seats. How is that democracy and justice? That's madness.
And so, I know you guys are going to abolish the House of Lords, is it?
Yes, ridiculous, corrupt system, terrible.
So why might we see a sort of PR system or more PR system in the Lords and whatever replaces it?
Let's have a debate about whether we need a second house, and if we do, what's the size of it? It doesn't need to be 800 plus people, maybe 150, 200, that sort of thing. A sort of a correcting chamber. You can do this stuff. I mean, plenty of other countries do it very well. At the moment, it's just basically it's a corrupt sort of resting place for people who've sort of done their time, or for business folk, successful folk who've lobbed in a couple of million quid to the Tory party or the Labour Party. That's just not right.
And in terms of who can vote in our elections, currently we have many foreigners who are able to vote, even though they're not British, in British elections. Do you think that, in addition to the voter ID that we've just seen implemented, that we need to restrict voting in British elections to British people?
The most important thing we've got to restrict is the corruption of the postal voting system, which is absolutely outrageous. I've seen it firsthand in a number of by-elections. I've seen people come with Tesco's bags full of postal vote papers, taking them to the polling station. They've been collected up from certain communities where people have been told what to fill in, who speak no English whatsoever, and that is not genuine democracy. That is fraudulent, that is corrupt, and we've got to stop it. And that's what Reform stands for, and we're the only people to call it out. Just by the way, how many new barbershops have you seen opening up on high streets all over the country? Is our hair growing faster post-COVID? Is that one of the side effects of COVID, for heaven's sake? No, I tell you what it is, and it's like the dodgy candy shops. You don't see many people in them. What's going on? It's the laundering of the hundreds of millions of profits from the illegal drugs trade. Everybody knows it, no one dares call it out. I do, I have done, and guess what? Everybody agrees with me.
Useful. And one last thing, I had the pleasure of asking Mr Farage about Julian Assange, and he said to me that he opposes the extradition. Will Reform also campaign to stop the persecution of Julian Assange?
Yeah, look, the honest answer is that I'm not totally up to speed with where it's got to, but it's been a very difficult situation. I'm not fully up to speed with where the situation got to. It's been sort of going on for years after years after years. Whatever we've got to the moment, clearly it's unsatisfactory.
Will this be a policy that Reform looks at and starts considering?
We're looking at all sorts of policies across the whole piece, and it's all about justice, fairness, but above all, competence. Get stuff done. You've got to reform the civil service. Everything needs reform. Our economy, our health system, immigration needs reform, as Nigel talked about. Law and order. The one thing we've got to do, though, is we've got to have confidence and self-belief in who we are, where we've come from, our foundation in Christianity, and being positive and constructive. And do you know what's brilliant about Britain? Above all else, the Aston Martin and James Bond. All right?
I was going to say the Magna Carta, but it's
no, come on. You're far too intellectual. That's ridiculous. Just give me an Aston Martin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr Tice. Far too intellectual, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I guess I could be accused of that.